Hi, I'm Tim Reed with the Acton AADUSD News, and I'm joined here today with.
Ken Pfalzgraf.
He has been serving on the board for the last 2 years. He's up for re-election. He's going to share his thoughts and his what he's going to try to do in the future. So Ken, before we get into the meat and potatoes, just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a 14-year resident of Acton. My wife Carissa and I live here. We have two children. Both of them have attended the district. My oldest daughter Kendra just graduated from Vasquez High School. I think she did pretty well there thanks to the teachers and staff. She had a bunch of those rope ribbon things around her neck, so if that's any indicator, she did well. And I have another 12-year-old that's there. We've lived in Acton, like I said, for 14 years. I am a public servant. I work for a municipality that I think everybody, wherever you go in the world, would know where this place is. And so I'm familiar with proper public business, funding and operations and high-end customer service. Now, I suppose I'm supposed to tell you about some of my hobbies or something like that. I do make guitars out of junk, and I'm known to have a dry wit and sense of humor. I hope you just saw some of that.
All right, great. So when you ran for the board 2 years ago, you set some goals for yourself. Can you refresh us on what those goals were? And have you made any measurable progress in achieving them? And what goals do you have for the future if you're reelected?
Okay, I came onto the board as part of a special election to fill a seat that someone resigned from after a good service, somebody with a financial background. And so I came in, and what my focus on was three particular things. First was to reduce fiscal dependence on out-of-boundary charters that the district was authorizing. Two was to restore focus on the local students. And the third was to restore the good name of the district in the greater educational marketplace. Now, if that's a formula, in order to get to the first one, you have to actually flip it around. So when I came onto the board, about 2 years before I came on the board in December 2016, the district had gone into negative certification, which means the enrollment in the district and the funding that's associated with that and the revenue that was coming in had dipped to the point where the County Office of Education said, you guys are not really looking that good, and I'll leave it at that. They assigned a fiscal advisor, and somebody's overseeing all this. So the district at that time was in a very defensive mode. There wasn't a lot of talk about enrichment programs. It was basically a survival mentality. So the district took up charter authorization as a means of fiscal recovery. So you would sponsor a charter for a percentage of the revenue of the charter. You would provide oversight and that type of thing. So all of a sudden there was a good recovery, and we went from basically being very cash poor to having a lot of money coming in. Now I looked at that and realized, knowing what I know about the public sector business, that most taxes and most fees aren't based, they're based on actual costs, so you don't have a lot of room in there to be padding in costs. So I could take some money out of the kids' educational fund and then route it over here to do that. The systems are not designed that way. And then I had some questions about, if you're going to supply these services, let's say, for example, you send a speech language pathologist to a charter because you are providing special ed services for the charter. You would typically look at this and say, okay, how many hours did the speech language pathologist go there? How many sessions did they do? Is that in line with what's been agreed upon in the agreement about the child special ed thing? And then you would look at what the actual cost is. Was there mileage? Was there things? And is there some oversight administration fee? And you would charge actual cost. And that way that's justifiable. I wasn't seeing much of that, and it was hard to get information about exactly how much was coming in and what was going out. So to get to the second part, restore focus on local students. Sometimes when you've got a recovery, a financial recovery, and you can't put your finger on it, hey, we did this, and so therefore our ADA went up and our funding went up and the stuff that we control went up. It's more of there's money coming in. I really don't understand it, but as long as there's money coming in, I don't have to give this a lot of effort, and then it actually kind of takes the wind out of the sails, where it might be easier instead of having 1,500 kids to have 1,000 kids. And so I think some of the motive and the drive went out of it. And then what scares me about that is you're kind of going from rags to riches, and it's nothing you really, really put your effort towards. So I could see it coming. I could see the end coming. I could see the joint audit committee was looking at our books. It seemed that we were being sued over there, and we were being sued by people everywhere, and we were kind of an island unto ourselves. And so I'm looking at, I think we're operating on the fringes here, and it was kind of like setting up a lemonade stand on a corner. So if you're the first one, you know, people see lemonade, they might not think about how great it is or the price. But when the second kid moves in on the corner across the street, now it becomes a little bit more competitive. And when the third one comes in, it's just about price. So I saw this as a highly volatile funding source. And was it really about our oversight or people coming to us trying to get sponsored? So I think that nature is taking its course, or the legislature or things. I think we've got a lot more accountability when charters come to us. There's more measurables, or financial measurables and that type of thing. And I see that you can measure those in the administrator's accountability. I think you see it in fiscal information that's coming forward, in transparency. And I think there's just a lot more accountability and a lot more understanding, and we're able to say, if we are charging a charter this, then this is what the outlay is, and this is where the money's going to. So in terms of the future, I want to maintain the transparency and the goals that I've set. I want to keep that course and keep the gains we have, especially in credibility, accountability, and transparency. But now I think it's time to focus on the success we've had at Vasquez School and look at our facilities and say, what do they need? How are they maintained? How do we keep them up? So there's a fine balance between having a gold building with no one in it and having a building that's attractive and has good curb appeal, and that, along with your program gains and your educational gains, attract students and make them feel comfortable.
All right, wow. Touched on a lot there, didn't we?
They say I never shut up.
No, that's great, it's great. All right, so in your opinion, what makes a good school board member?
Okay, first, I think you need to be educated about the district's business. What that means is you don't get on a school board to advocate for your child. I mean, a parent advocates for their child. And so I think that having a broad understanding and a realization that, number one, you are there to set policy and to support the superintendent's goals for education of the district students. Now, the way to get that, in my experience, is you attend board meetings and you realize there's a lot going on, and some of it's financial, some of it's policy, some of it's programs, some of it's scores, some of it's facilities. So there is no substitution for actually going to board meetings to learn that. I sat out in the audience for about 5 years before I ran for office, and during that time I would focus on some things that like special education and charters, because I think that there's some volatility and risk there, and you want to make sure that those things are in order. And so I think I had a pretty good understanding. Now, I always tell people that are thinking about running for the board, anything you think and anything you say, your first closed session might have all that go up in smoke. So that's all I can say about that. But I think the second thing is that you bring something to the table that might complement the board. And that would be things like, I have, for me, for example, I work for a public agency. I've done that for going into my 18th year. I'm an exempt employee. They can tell me tomorrow that there's a door. I'm a bureau manager. I run a division for the city. I'm the administrator. I'm responsible for programs, employees, contracts, reporting to council. Our system is very transparent. There's a lot of public input and things like that. So I bring top end public sector business, the public's business, and how to do that transparently to the table. Now you might have somebody that understands education. Maybe they understand curriculum. They take kids that are all the way from pre-K up to 12th grade. They have diverse learning styles. They have diverse motivations. They have diverse cognitive levels. And maybe you know how to deliver a curriculum to support the teachers, so there's continuum between as kids go through. And you know, at the end, you have to have kids ready for more education or to assume an independent place in society, and a successful place in society. So I think if you have an expertise that the board can use, it might be financial, it might be facilities, it might be something. And then thirdly, I think the ability to build consensus is really important. So if you come in and the rest of the board members look at you and they say, I've seen this person out in the audience, they've obviously given the effort to come forward. We're not gonna have to babysit them with the very basics of the business. And they bring something that we don't have, and it actually complements us and it moves the district's goals forward. I think that's a really good thing. Now, in some boards and organizations, you don't get consensus, and you usually see those are signified by people coming and going. And if you can't build consensus, then it turns about personal things, and then you're kind of not able to support your superintendent's goals. Now, some people think that maybe if I run for a school board, it will give me some standing in the community. It will be, maybe I'll look good. You know what? A couple bad votes by you can look really bad in the community. And I don't think sitting on the school board makes you look good. Looking good is something you either have or do not. And well, I think I got that down. Next question, Tim.
That was unscripted, by the way. No idea that was going to
Sorry,
happen.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. All right, so what do you think makes our school district different from larger neighboring school districts?
Well, it's size. And by that I mean admin team is probably the first thing that pops in. You know, these towns that are east and west of us, they used to be kind of like us, little rural hamlets where there were some people and there was a horse trail between them. The horse trail got shorter and then the cars came in, and now you have these big, huge cities. But the school districts that serve those small hamlets are still there, and you got a lot more kids, a lot more admin team and all that. And some agencies, you have the director, the assistant director, to the assistant of the liaison, to the deputy. We can't have that here. And so I think the key thing is our admin team has to be like a good school board member. They have to be knowledgeable. They have to have a specialty. They have to be self-motivated and monitor their own behaviors and their own drive and initiative. They have to have a good moral compass, and they have to be in tune with the community, because there's nowhere to hide if there's one of you. And so I think that when you take away the idea that you have to survive in a political environment, and that your political alignments sometimes take precedent over what you are actually doing for the kids that day, I think that's what sets us apart. We're able to deliver a service where you actually know your students, you know their parents, and you know your community, and that makes me happy. I think we got something unique.
All right, very good. Well, we're a bit out of time. Real quickly, is there anything you'd like to plug, throw out there real quick?
Well, I already did the mirror thing, and you know, so I think I did okay there. But at the end of the day, I want to remind you that it is an honor to be voted in to serve the public and to be your voice. And I think that we're headed in a positive direction. I think the main thing is that we're able to define more what we're doing, document it, and justify it, and I think it's increasing our credibility. I'm really happy about the team that's coming together, the site principals, our teachers. They're the bottom line. They're the ones that deliver the education. The rest of it's just support, and as long as you have an administration that understands they're there to support the teachers who care about the students in their community, everything's gonna be good. So, once again, it's an honor to serve you.
All right, special thanks to the Acton AADUSD Public Library for letting us use their meeting room and not kicking us out. It's a bit past their closing time. Thanks for sitting down with me, Ken.
As always, Tim, thank
I'll
you.
see you next Thursday.
Alrighty.